Major League Baseball player, Hall of Famer Wade Boggs. I also hope you listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They can darn sure use the money.
Hi there. This is marine wildlife artist and conservationist Dr. Guy Harvey. Please listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They need to feel worthy.
Tampa Bay's TAN Talk. Entertaining and informative radio for the Sunshine State.
It's time for FLA Law, brought to you by the personal injury attorneys of Perinick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes. This hour will be informative, along with taking your questions and comments. Now, here are your hosts for today's show.
Good evening. This is attorney Matthew Noyes, and I am one of the partners at Perinick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes, and we are here every Tuesday at 5 o'clock to be available to answer any questions you have regarding personal injury law. That would include car accidents, car insurance, slip and falls. We even do workers' compensation, and we do Social Security disability as well. So I'm here to answer any of your questions. It is a live legal call-in talk show, so we survived this next hour through calls. So if you have questions, give us a call at 441-3000, 727-441-3000. Also, I forgot to click our Facebook Live. So we are also going to be live on Facebook with Perinick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes Injury Lawyers page. So please watch us on Facebook as well. But I'm not here alone. I have a special guest. I feel like a proud dad here. My special guest is Michelle Perez. She is here to talk to us about immigration law. Michelle started out, I don't know if she started out, but she was a receptionist in our office a long, long time ago.
Ages ago.
and she moved on and blossomed, and now she is a well-respected immigration attorney. So, Michelle, thank you very much for coming. I'm very proud of you for all you've done so far. And so why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today. When I got your email, I was ecstatic. I was like, sure, it'd be great to catch up and talk about immigration, the thing that I love doing. But yeah, my name's Michelle Perez. My parents would kill me if I didn't mention my maiden name. So Michelle Perez Eusebio.
I let you pronounce that one. I was glad you got married.
Yes, my name became way easier after the fact. But yeah, I've been practicing since 2015. I am exclusively an immigration attorney, so that's what I do day in and day out. But yeah, that's me.
And you're do it all throughout Tampa Bay. I know your main office is in Palm Harbor or Tampa Bay, right?
Well, I actually work virtually for a firm that's based off of McLean, Virginia, and we actually handle cases all around the country because we're federal law.
Oh, that's right. That's why we can do Social Security disability, just like you can do immigration all over the country.
Exactly. So my hands aren't tied. So we actually have clients in all 50 states. So it's pretty cool.
That is very cool. But work isn't the only thing that keeps you busy. I've been able to follow you along as you've grown into who you are. And I understand that you have 3 beautiful daughters.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about those 3?
Yeah. So I got married in 2015, I believe. Yeah, 2015. And then I had my first daughter in 2016. So I have 3 little girls with my husband. They're 7, 3, and the little one is going to turn 1 year old pretty soon. So I've been pretty busy on my side of
You do sound very busy, so that's good. No, that's good. I understand that there's an issue with the audio on Facebook, so we can see what we can do to fix that, and we will keep going. But why don't you tell us a little bit about why you became an immigration attorney?
Wow, that's a really good question. That's a good question. I think
guess our personal injury practice didn't make you go our route. You said, I'm going to go totally different. I spent how long were you with us?
I feel like I was on and off during college, all through high school.
Yeah.
I felt like it was like at least 10 years on and off.
But that was, okay, I'm not going to do personal injury. I know that. So I went to immigration instead. So I understand, Michelle.
Personal injury is tough. It's very tough. And I give you guys a lot of credit. It's a lot to remember, and there's just a lot that goes into it. But initially I was like, well, yeah, I want to be a lawyer, right? And I think you specifically made me believe that I can do it. So I decided, hey, let me take a chance. And I went to law school, and it wasn't until I went to law school that I figured out that I wanted to be an immigration attorney. I'm a very numbers person. So I was in mathematics, in my undergrad, and I was like, I'm coming out on top with a financial degree, and I'm going to be a financial advisor. But I feel like there was a little voice in my head, like, you can do it, and take your LSATs and go for law school. And so I did.
That's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. So, but I really went into immigration because, I'm a daughter of immigrants. So it's near and dear to my heart. And a lot of my family are, not born in this country. My parents weren't born in this country. So me being able to help other people that are in my family situation, it really made me realize that they need my help, and the passion that I have behind immigration, it definitely makes a difference.
Right, and I've seen your passion through immigration law as well throughout the years of how you help so many people. So that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Personal injury. When I say personal injury, that umbrella talks about all kinds of things, such as car accidents, slip and falls, and all types of other types of cases. But immigration law is kind of the same thing. When I say immigration law, that can mean just about anything. Can you tell our listeners what does immigration law consist of?
Yeah, immigration, I usually like to tell people it's divided into two parts, right? There's the employment-based or business immigration side, and then there's the removal defense and family visas part. And so I do more of the humanitarian family removal defense side because it would be too much to try to learn both sides. But actually my firm, we do both sides now, which is unheard of because usually you just specialize in one section because it's just too much to learn at one point. But we recently expanded. I work for Egan Immigration in McLean, Virginia, but we recently expanded, and now we have a business immigration side, and we have a separate business immigration attorney that handles those type of cases. So if you're asking me about family and humanitarian, I got you there. Right. Business, please don't ask me.
That's a whole monster in itself.
That's a monster in itself. It is.
That's kind of like in our arena, it's like medical malpractice. Mark Perenick and Brian Caulfield are stars in that area of law. I know a little bit. I know enough just to be dangerous, but I let the experts handle that area more so.
Exactly. It's exactly the same. Yep.
Well, good deal. Good deal. So what type of practice areas do you enjoy doing? What do you find yourself doing most of?
Well, we mostly do at our practice, we deal with, or I deal with more victims of domestic violence and human trafficking, sex trafficking victims. So we usually deal with the undocumented that are victims of certain crimes or of abuse from family members. So I usually handle that route. And I also focus more on criminal investigation cases. So I've had a longstanding, I don't want to say relationship, but there's been a lot of back and forth. I've been in court a lot of times just fighting some removal defense cases where they had maybe some criminal convictions. And I had to let the judge know that it's not as serious as it looks and they don't deserve to be deported. So we specialize in going over the criminal convictions of someone's history and seeing if that, bars them from getting legal documents here in the United States, or even if they're residents staying here.
So there are some criminal offenses that don't automatically bar them from coming and staying in the United States?
Right.
Okay.
It can depend on what it is and what state and federal versus state offense. So it gets a little tricky.
Well, good. Well, if you do have a question regarding immigration law, Michelle's here to answer them. Our telephone number is 727-441-3000.
And it's already working. We got Aaron from Largo on the line.
All right. Sounds good. Aaron, thank you for listening and thank you for calling. How can we help you tonight?
Hi, I just had a question for you guys. So a lot of people talk about individuals being a resident or being a citizen. Can you explain the difference between the two?
I'm going to pass that right on over to Michelle. So the question, I guess, is there are people that are referred to as residents, and there's people that are referred to as citizens. What is there a difference, and what are they?
That's a great question. And yeah, I'll answer that, Matt. Don't
good.
worry.
Thank goodness. I can tell you what a citizen is. I can't go anything further than that, though.
Right. So citizens usually mean someone that is born in the United States or has naturalized into that position, whether they're born from U.S. citizen parents, or maybe they've gone through the process of getting legal residency here in the United States and then becoming citizens. Legal permanent residence is what people normally refer to as the green card holder. And those residents, they're legally able to reside in the United States, and they're still considered immigrants of the United States. And the way that people get green cards is through either a family petition or through employment business visas. So usually those are the two main routes where you would then apply, someone who wasn't born in the United States and maybe are citizens of different countries. That's how you would apply to be a legal permanent resident of the United States. So you have to have some sort of attachment to the U.S. in order to move forward with getting legal permanent residency here.
No, that's very helpful. Now, my wife and myself adopted our boy from Guatemala.
Right.
And so he was just a baby at the time. And so he is also a citizen, even though he was born in Guatemala.
Right. So he derives citizenship from you and your wife.
Yes, he's a blessing. 17-year-old boy, but he's still a blessing.
I remember the days where you were in the legal adoption process.
Oh,
so
that's right.
I can't believe the 17 years later. It's crazy.
Well, Aaron, was that helpful for you? Did it answer your question?
Yes, it was. Thank you guys so much.
Well, good. Thank you very much for listening. And I encourage you to continue listening.
Thank you.
And it does free up a line. Again, our number is 727-441-3000. I understand we're still having a problem with the audio on Facebook, but you can also go to YouTube, and I think you can go to our channel on YouTube, and that's Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyce channel on YouTube. I think it may be Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, Noyce Injury Lawyers on YouTube too, and you can watch us live and hopefully hear us there as well. But we are also on the radio station. As those listening on the radio knows, we're on AM 1340, and we're also on FM at 106.1. So this is Matthew Noyce. I am a partner at Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyce. We are happy to be here every Tuesday, but I'm even happier to have Michelle Perez here to help me answer your all's questions. She'll answer all the questions regarding immigration law. I'll answer the questions on personal injury, and if there's a question that has neither to do with either of those, Michelle got out of law school a lot sooner than recently than I have, so I'll probably defer those over to Michelle. So bring them on, is what I say.
After I pass that bar, all that knowledge went out my brain.
Well, you were talking a little bit about, helping those that are victims of battery. Can you explain the process? What happens to those people that they're non-citizens,
right, that
are victims of battery? What happens? How do you get involved?
Yeah, well, usually we have undocumented non-citizens call in trying to seek relief. Like, how can I become a citizen or a resident and eventually a citizen of the United States? So we usually do consults with them and verify if there's ever been abuse in their past by either a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident spouse that they're currently married to or have been married to in the past within the past 2 years. And also people eligible are maybe a son or daughter that has lawful permanent resident or United States citizen parents that maybe have been abusive to them, and they are undocumented and they're under 25. We've been able to help those, and we also been able to help undocumented parents of U.S. citizen children over the age of 21 that might have been abusive, whether it be physical abuse, mental abuse, financial abuse. We help those people get residency.
Okay. And I do have a question because somebody asked me. I didn't know the answer. We call them people that have green cards. Is it actually a card that is green?
The card used to be green. Okay. It's no longer green. Okay. So that's where the term comes from, green card. Okay. So yeah, a lot of people just know it as, oh, my green card. And it's something that everyone kind of knows. It's a permanent resident card. And
what rights does a permanent resident with a green card have that's different than those rights that may be from an undocumented person?
Yeah, well, a lawful permanent resident has the right to remain in the country. They have status. They can work. They can pay taxes. The only difference between lawful permanent residents and United States citizens is basically if something happens and maybe they get arrested or they commit some bad stuff, right? They can actually get deported no matter how long they've been here, right? They could have been here for 50 years or been here since they were 2, but just never naturalized to be a U.S. citizen, and something has happened in their past. They can potentially be deported from the United States and back to a country that they've never visited.
Oh, goodness. How long is a green card valid, and does it ever expire, I guess is my question.
So back in the day, it never used to expire. I've had a lot of older clients, my dad, who's held a lawful permanent resident card that never expired, right? I think it was sometime, don't quote me, but I think it was sometime in the 90s or early 2000s where they started making them 10 years. And so every 10 years, you would have to go renew that card with USCIS, which is the immigration offices.
Okay. And is it an easy process to renew the card, or what's the process of that?
It's pretty easy if you have no concerns in your background.
In the last 10 years, right?
Right. So. Or in your whole 50 years.
Oh, yeah. Okay. They can go back even though they approved it 10 years earlier.
Yep. They can go back all the way to, I've had clients that had issues from, the early 90s or 80s, and their residents of the United States have never been put into deportation proceedings, but if they leave the country and they try to come back, they will be flagged.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, what was how do we apply for renewal, right?
Yeah. What's the process of it? Yes.
It's actually it's just a form, right? Usually, green card holders, residents do it by themselves, Form I-90. But if you have serious history, you don't want to do that by yourself. Right. And that's where I come in, because I do a lot of criminal investigations to people's past and make sure that if we submit these renewals, that they're not getting flagged by immigration and then being put into deportation proceedings. So, it's great when everything is peachy, but if you have some issues in the back, you might want to call us.
That's what I always say when someone's involved in a crash or even a work comp injury. Yes, you can try to do it yourself, but for me, I can try to fix my AC at home myself too, but it ain't going to be the right way to do it. And it's kind of the same way in a personal injury matter, that you need someone who knows the process, knows what forms need to be done, knows how to complete those forms correctly, as opposed to just doing it yourself. And that's where you come into play for that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Working for your firm, I've always told everyone coming out, insurance companies are not your friends.
Hey, it worked.
If that's one thing I learned working, it's like they might be friendly, but they're not your friends. So yeah, it's the same. Immigration might be friendly, but they're not your friends. They're looking to deport you and deny you. So it's only safe. It's honestly only safe for people if they become United States citizen.
And how do they do that? How do they become a green card holder? how they can become U.S. citizens.
Right.
Can you tell our listeners how that happens? What's the process to become a U.S. citizen?
Yeah, so usually you have to be a resident for at least 5 years, and then have basic understanding of the civics or the history of the United States, have an understanding of English, pass an English exam, and that's how you usually become a citizen. It's a form, right? You submit it to USCIS. You have an interview. You have to pass that interview. You have to pass your civics. It's like school, a little bit like school. And then you have to make sure that your history, there's nothing bad going on there, which can include stuff outside of criminal.
Okay. And if I understand correctly from watching the news, some of our citizens can't pass that citizens test themselves.
Yes, exactly. I tell clients, like, you really have to study, because there's a lot of citizens right now that wouldn't be able to pass this exam if they were just giving it
cold.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you have any questions regarding immigration law, we're here until 6:00. So please give us a call at 727-441-3000.
And we actually have that right now. We got Eddie from Clearwater calling, and he's got a question for Michelle.
Hi, Eddie. Thank you for calling. Thank you for listening. How can we help you?
Yes, I have a question. If I'm a green card holder, can I vote in the local elections?
That's a good question. I don't know that answer. I'm sure Michelle knows that answer. Michelle, can a green card holder still vote?
I know that answer, and do not vote. You do not have the right to vote in an election. And if you do, that you might get deported.
Oh, is that serious?
Yes, because you'll be false claiming a U.S. citizen, so they might put you into deportation or removal proceedings.
Oh, wow! Now that's both state and federal, national votes. Okay, good. Does that answer your question, Eddie?
Yes. I'm not going to vote now. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
All right.
It does.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. It does free up a line. Again, it's 441-3000. We're talking about green cards, but we also hear, when we're talking about immigration, about visas, student visas or travel visas. Can you tell our listeners a little bit what a student visa is, and how is that different than a green card?
Right. So usually visas mean temporary, right? You can stay here for a temporary period for a specific reason. So student visas are usually, you're here because you're studying. And those are usually taken, if you're going to college, those are usually taken care of by a university normally. They're the ones that would, do these student visas for these applicants that are international students. So it's only a temporary authorized stay. So it's not like you can stay here after you graduate. They give you some sort of grace period where you now have to return home, or maybe consult with an attorney to see if you can go down the path of residency to remain here permanently. There's also very common tourist visas, B2 visitor visas, we call it a lot. And those are just for a temporary period to come and visit the United States. You can't exceed 6 months. Right. Sometimes the officers, when you're coming into the country, CBP officers, they'll tell you, no, you can't. You can only stay a max 3 months. Right. So they'll give you the kind of, you must leave. Otherwise, you're overstaying and you're violating the U.S. laws. So those are temporary visas, and you would have to leave before that period expires.
How is a visa different than your passport? Is it?
A visa, normally they would put the visa inside the passport.
Okay.
I think they might have an electronic version or something like that, or a separate, but it's usually in the passport. The consulate that grants that visa for the applicant would take their passport, usually put that visa, the U.S. visa, to allow them to enter the United States, into their passport, send it to them, and then they're free to use it. And B2 visitor visas are usually good for 10 years, but after 10 years, you have to reapply. As long as you don't overstay your visits and you're not here unauthorized, then they'll most likely renew it.
And those are it's good for 10 years, but you don't get to stay for 10 years, do you?
No. Yeah. Max 6 months, unless you request for an extension.
And what about the student visas? Is it the same thing? Is there a maximum that you can stay as a student on a student visa?
I'm not as knowledgeable on student visas because those are more
done by the university.
Yeah, done by the university. But those, I'm sure, have a time limit of once you graduate, you have a certain amount of days to leave the country afterwards.
Because we hear on the news that people overstay their visa and such like that. If that's the case, and they want to become a permanent resident, is that something that they would have to consult with an immigration attorney to convert that student visa over to a green card? Is that what it would be? Look
good
at
job.
that. I'm learning.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely consult if you overstay. Every case is different. You know, I'm sure you know that, and it happens in your firm too. But every case is different, and we'd have to really look at your case history to make sure that you're eligible to continue residing here lawfully. And it depends on what's going on in your life. If maybe you have some sort of tie, like a U.S. citizen spouse or fiance, and maybe they can petition for you, and you can remain here in the United States lawfully.
Very helpful information. We're about to take our first break, but during the break, if you have a question, this is the time to call 727-441-3000. She's Michelle Perez, an immigration attorney. I'm Matthew Noyes with Pernick Caulfield, Averill, Illinois, able to answer your personal injury questions, Social Security questions, or even workers' comp questions. So come back right after this break. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the TAN Talk Radio Network.
In 1955, the law firm now known as Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes made a decision. Instead of taking whatever cases came through their doors, they decided to focus specifically on personal injury. 64 years later, the law firm is one of Clearwater's longest-running personal injury firms. Available 24 hours a day with offices in Clearwater and throughout Tampa Bay, they're ready to put decades of experience to work for you if you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or injured due to someone's negligence or recklessness. If you feel overwhelmed, uncertain, or unsure about your next steps after being involved in an accident or after a loved one sustained serious injuries due to someone else's negligence, call Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes at 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. That's 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. Non-attorney spokesman.
This is the TAN Talk Radio Network.
Thank you for coming back from our break. This is attorney Matthew Noyes. I'm one of the partners at Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes, and you're listening to FLA Law on the radio. We are a voice of the injured, and so if you have questions regarding personal injury matters, Social Security, disability, or even workers' compensation, I'm here to help you until about 6 o'clock, and then we'll be gone for this week, but we'll be back next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. But I'm not here alone. I am blessed to have my friend, Michelle Perez, here as well. She's an immigration attorney here, and she can answer any questions you have regarding immigration. So if you have a question, give us a call, 727-441-3000.
And we've actually got two of them. We're going to go first to Sophie in St. Pete.
All right, Sophie, thank you for listening, and thank you for holding. How can we help you?
Thank you. Yes, I have a question about immigration law.
Sure.
I was just wondering if you've noticed if it's been more difficult or easier to defend an immigrant during a Democratic versus a Republican administration, since this is federal law.
That's a good question. I'm going to let Michelle answer that question the best that she can. And so, Michelle, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, yes, we definitely see a change in the climate when there's a Republican versus a Democratic president. there's a lot of pushback from DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, against of undocumented or those in removal proceedings when it comes to a Republican president. When we have a Democratic president here, then we have more favorable decisions for our clients. So I guess I would say they're happier to grant us relief or close a case or give them residency.
Do the immigration judges, are they appointed by the president?
No, they actually apply. So
Okay.
they're admin court judges, so they're not appointed. I could apply tomorrow to be an immigration judge.
Okay, but does it? But their position doesn't change once the new president comes in, though.
No, their position doesn't change, but they get forced. They get a little bit of pushback from higher ups about what they should be doing in court.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
It sure does. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And if you have questions regarding immigration law, please feel free to call Michelle Perez. I guess I never did say this in the beginning. Michelle, if somebody had a question for you after 6 o'clock tonight, and they wanted to touch base with you, what's the best number for them, or what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, the best way for them to reach me or just reach the firm and they can get in contact with me is calling Egan Immigration. So they're eganimmigration.com. Very easy.
Is it
EAGAN
Okay.
immigration.com. And they're in McLean, Virginia. Phone number is 202-709-6439. And our offices are open. I don't want to say 24 hours, but 10 o'clock at night, if you call, somebody will be answering the phone.
That's the joy or the curse of being a national law firm, is that what may be 5 o'clock in Florida isn't 5 o'clock in California.
Exactly.
And so you help just about everybody throughout the country.
Yep, everybody.
Yes. Well, I think we still have another caller on the phone.
We do. We're
right.
gonna go to Tampa for this one with Winter.
All right, Winter, thank you for listening. How can we help you today?
Yes. So DACA has been a big topic over the years. Could you explain what DACA is?
I do hear that a lot on the news, and so yes, Michelle, can you explain to our listeners what DACA is and what impact has been going on with DACA, the past and maybe even the future, if you can predict the future?
I wish I could predict the future.
It'd be a lot
Where's
easier,
my
right?
8-ball? Yeah.
That's right.
Well, DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and that basically has been a huge help for the undocumented children that have maybe been brought in through the border by their parents, have lived here all their lives and are trying to apply for some sort of status. There's certain requirements that you have to meet. You have to be here before 2007. You have to have graduated with a high school degree or a GED. The climate right now is that you can't seek an initial DACA application. They're only up for renewals. That's something that happened during the Republican term. But that's getting fought in the courts right now. And I mean, who knows what the future holds, honestly, for DACA.
Now, DACA applicants, those are children that were born in a different country and then came here.
Yes.
Because if they're born here in the United States, then DACA doesn't apply.
Right. They don't need this. Yeah. So a lot of DACA applicants have been able to get work permits, go to college. It's changed their lives. And, a big push in the political sense is to try to formally legalize these DACA applicants, because right now it's just a temporary stay, right? You have to renew it after a certain amount of years. So there's no permanency behind DACA. And that's what has a lot of people upset, because, at this point, we should have established some sort of manner to make these DACA applicants legal permanent residents or even citizens is some of the talk out there.
Right.
Which would be great.
We're educating them.
Yeah.
Our schools are educating them.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would want the benefit of the education to stay here in the United States and to send them away after we provided the education for them.
Right, exactly. And this is all they know. You know, the United States, although they weren't born here, they were raised here. So they don't know their home country. So it's unfair for them to be requested to leave or deported.
Sure. Caller, was that helpful for you? Did that clear the muddy waters just a little bit?
It most certainly did. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. It does free up a line. Our number is 727-441-3000. We are here for about another 15 minutes taking calls. So if you have a question, please don't hesitate to call. Again, it's 727-441-3000. I am attorney Matthew Noyce, one of the partners at Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyce, the oldest personal injury law firm in Tampa Bay. Guy Pernick started our law firm in 1955, and we've been going ever since. We are a voice of the injured, and we are here to guide people through the process. Part of the frustration, and I think it's for immigration law as well, is our clients call and they don't even know what questions to ask because they haven't been part of the system before. And so we feel our role is to, not only tell them what all their rights are, but also do what their responsibilities are too. And do you see that too in immigration law, Michelle?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of undocumented and non-citizens that don't know what they can or cannot do. Right, when a police officer or maybe ICE officials approach them. So there's a lot of good resources out there just to, let undocumented know their rights. And I can go through a few of them.
Sure, please do.
Like.
Please do.
Basically, if you're approached by an officer or an ICE officer, my number one thing is, just don't be rude. Don't lie. Don't provide false documents. You can give them your name, right, and your ID. You don't have to tell them your immigration status as it sits right now. So they don't have the right to ask you that. After giving them your initial information, your name, your date of birth, and maybe your ID, you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to speak to them or answer their questions further. So that's something important. And then if they continue to badger you, you can say, I want to talk to my immigration attorney, and then call us at Vegan Immigration. But a lot of people don't know that they have those rights, just being here. They think just because they're undocumented, they have no rights whatsoever, and they have to listen to whoever tells them what they need to do. And that's just not true.
And we see that also both in the workers' comp arena and even in our car accident cases. We have undocumented workers, right? That sometimes the employer is the one who gives them the false Social Security number.
I see that a lot.
Yes. And so, and under workers' comp law, the undocumented worker is still entitled to work comp benefits, but they cannot provide the false Social Security number, because if they provide the false Social Security number, then they can be in trouble for misrepresentation. So if it's an undocumented worker who gets hurt at work, doesn't mean you don't have a workers' comp claim. You just have to take steps to protect your rights and get the benefits that you're entitled to under the workers' compensation law. Same thing with auto accidents. I mean, we have undocumented people that get hurt in car accidents. Just because they're undocumented doesn't mean that they're not entitled to the benefits of the judicial system that we have.
Right, exactly. A lot of people don't know that. And speaking about workers' comp and undocumented, there's something called a T visa, where if you've been exploited in the labor or by your employer, then you can get a special visa out of that. So if you're being mistreated or abused or worked or threatened to be called deportation upon you, or not paid for what you're rightfully owed, you can seek a T visa through immigration. And I don't want to say specialized, but I would say special. We handle those type of cases. That's one of we handle VAWA and T visa. That's our big caseload. So we spend a lot of time doing our research and making sure that we provide enough information to our clients and get what we need from them regarding what happened to them in their when they were employed by their trafficker.
Right.
And we've been winning a lot of T visas for undocumented. And it's justice, right? It's being served the justice that they sought, and while they were being mistreated.
Right. And we hear a lot that, they're afraid to report the claim because they're going to be afraid that the employer is going to rat them out, so to speak, and turn them into immigration and ICE. And so they're hesitant to make any types of claim. So this T visa, that's the reason T visa was created.
Oh. Yeah.
And what happens if they get the T visa? Is there a period? Is that like a green card, or what is that like?
That's almost like a green card.
Okay.
So what happens is they get they get a T visa approval, and so they're here for it's valid for 4 years, and then you can apply for residency through that T visa. And so eventually it does turn into a resident green card. And so, yeah, it's the best way, if you have been mistreated, that you can go down that route.
That's good. How about in Florida? Are you able to get a driver's license if you're, let's do the first one, with someone with a green card?
Well, yeah, for people that have residence, they can get driver's license. It's more of those undocumented.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah.
So if you're documented, it's easy to get a driver's license.
Yep.
What if you're undocumented? What happens?
You're undocumented, you're unable to. So Florida has their own set procedures of when someone who doesn't have residency or citizenship, when they can get a driver's license from the state of Florida. And it's usually because they're in the process of gaining some sort of status, whether it be, through a T visa, through DACA, or maybe they're in removal proceedings, and they should be awarded this driver's license. So the state of Florida every state is different when it comes to driver's license, but specifically in the state of Florida, they won't give it to undocumented individuals.
What about IDs? Or do they get IDs?
I'm pretty sure IDs you can, but then you can't drive on them, and that's probably the number one offense here, driving without a license.
Yes. Now, driving without a license, and you have to deal with the criminal aspects of those things. Is that one of those things that can result in deportation?
No, it can't, but it does go against your good moral character. So if you have too many of those, then you want to be a little bit more careful. Judges don't like to see a lot of them because they're saying, well, you're violating the U.S. laws. And I got to eat. Yeah. I got a family to provide for, so I need to drive to my job. Right.
Can you tell us, tell me and our listeners, the length, how long does it take from applying for a green card until you get a green card, till you're a documented individual? Yes.
Well, it really depends on what avenue you go down towards. So specifically for the type of cases that we take, VAWA cases,
what's VAWA?
VAWA is Violence Against Women's Acts, and it's not specific for women, but it encompasses women and men. But that process takes a little longer, and it's just because there's a huge backlog. And they can't process our applications fast enough. So the more applications that they get, the longer it takes for them to adjudicate that application.
Sure.
So for a VAWA applicant, it's usually looking around 3 to 3.5 years before that they could actually get that resident or green card.
Okay. What about just if it's not violence, it's just somebody who wants to get a green card to come as a documented individual at the United States? How long does that take them to go through?
Well, it depends on that one. If they're outside of the United States and they maybe married a U.S. citizen or are engaged to a U.S. citizen, it just depends on how long the process takes from. There's so many steps in that kind of process that it'll probably take around 2.5 years as well.
So the things that we hear, whether in the news or on TV, hey, let's just marry a U.S. citizen and then poof, I'm a U.S. citizen. That's not the case.
Right. No, it takes a lot of work, and I would never recommend to do it without an attorney, because Immigration obviously does this for a living, so they know what to look out for.
Right.
And I do this for a living, so I know what they're looking out for. So
right.
I'm looking out for my clients as they're trying to, maybe deny their applications.
Yeah. Well, that's very helpful. We do have still some time. If you have a question regarding immigration law, Ms. Perez is here to help you. Our number is 727-441-3000. If you have questions regarding Social Security, disability, or workers' comp, or car accidents or personal injury, I'm here, Matthew Noyce. We're here to help you for the next 10 minutes. Again, our number is 727-441-3000. Michelle, we talked a little bit about family-based immigration and how we can bring family members into the United States as documented individuals. Who can tell us a little bit about that? There's a sponsor, is that right?
Yeah, so it depends. It has to be, there's different types of petitions that an individual can apply for. So, for example, maybe someone has a wife that's outside of the United States. First, they would have to petition for that person, go through that approval process to make sure that it's an actual valid, bona fide marriage. And then they go through the visa interview with the U.S. consulate in their country. Then there's different types. So there might be maybe a U.S. citizen sibling wants to petition for their other sibling that may be undocumented or is outside the country. Those are not considered immediate relatives. So immigration doesn't view that as a necessity to bring them in right away. And so those, even though those petitions can be approved pretty quickly because those petitions are just stating, hey, yes, you are the brother of so-and-so. What takes the longer time is when a visa is available for that person to go and take. Right. There's a quota, or, you can't have a certain amount of visas given to an individual for U.S. citizens' siblings. So there's a quota system.
Okay.
And so when that backlog happens, it, backs up all these applications. And right now we're looking at if you had an undocumented sibling and you wanted to petition for them, it'd probably take 15 to 20 years before they'd be able to come in.
Wow. Even if you're a U.S. citizen,
right,
and you want to bring in your undocumented brother,
right,
it'll still take 15 to 20 years to get them in. Wow. What about parents? Is it the same thing if you want to bring your parents in?
Well, parents, it's different. Parents, they considered immediate relatives. So there's a necessity behind bringing your parents here, but you can only be a U.S. citizen and you have to be over the age of 21.
Okay.
So a lot of maybe undocumented parents that have U.S. born children, those you have to wait till those children are 21 years old and then consult with an attorney because there might be some stuff.
Yes.
And then you can go through the process of trying to petition for your parent to remain in the United States.
And that's if you're a citizen. What if you're a permanent resident? If you hold a green card, can you try to bring in your spouse or your siblings or your children or your parents?
Right. So it depends on the category. So for children, you can't be a lawful permanent resident over 21 and try to bring your parents in, but you have to be a U.S. citizen. And the same goes for siblings. You can't be a lawful permanent resident sibling and try to bring your sibling in. You have to be a citizen. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is actually a spouse. So if you're a lawful permanent resident and you are petitioning for your spouse, then it's more of a rush. But right now, the visas, they're not current. So you might wait a little bit longer, maybe a year more than the normal.
A year longer for your spouse.
A year longer for your spouse.
And you say a year longer than the normal, and the normal is?
U.S. citizens petitioning for their spouses.
Yeah, wow. So it's going to be a long time. And how about children? I mean, if you're a green card holder, you have an undocumented child or trying to get them into the States, the same Same process though too.
Same process, but the child has to be unmarried and under 21 years old.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it is a long process. It can work.
It can.
But it is a long process.
Right. And only with attorney, the consults of attorneys.
Yeah.
Don't do it yourself.
It is. I'm confused just that. So you really do need an attorney. We do have only about 5 minutes left. So why don't you tell our listeners again how they can get in touch with you and when they need to get in touch with you. You don't want to wait till it's too late. So when's the best time for them to contact you when they're in the immigration process?
Right. I would say any undocumented individuals in the state of Florida need to contact us ASAP, especially what's going on right now with the legislation. You definitely don't want to be undocumented in Florida. So I would say call now.
Okay. And you can explain to them what their rights are,
right,
and what their obligations are. And how would they call you, or how would they contact you?
So they can call our phone number at 202-709-6439. And right now in June, we're having a promotion for consultations, and they're only $49.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they can be and ask you questions and be available. Now, you do that by telephone? You do it by any other way, Zoom, or
Yeah, we usually do it by the phone since our clients are all over the United States. But if you do prefer a video, we do that too.
Okay, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. And the time to do it is now instead of waiting for something to happen when you need an attorney.
Don't do it. Don't wait. It's not a great idea.
Yeah. It's a little different in our arena.
Right.
You don't need me until you have a car accident or you have a work injury. And so that's when you need to have them. But you in the immigration, you got to take the proactive approach and protect yourself and start doing what you need to do in order to protect yourself.
Right.
And
exactly.
your family too, because it doesn't just impact the person, it impacts the family as well, right?
Oh, yeah. There's so many children who are here that are U.S. citizen children that have undocumented parents. And could you imagine the parents being deported? What do you do with your child? Do you bring them to a country that they don't know? Do you leave them here with relatives? It's going to cause that extreme hardship for them.
Right. And what if the child marries and has established a good job here and such? What are they going to do? Let their parents just go to another country?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it is important that they reach out to you before any situation happens at all. I think we have just about 2 minutes left, but can you give me a Reader's Digest version of your most memorable case?
Oh, man. I think my most memorable case was a removal defense case that I had back in the day. I don't do immigration court anymore just because of the logistics of traveling to court, and I'm working for a virtual firm. And
you have 3 beautiful babies too.
And I have 3 beautiful babies. Yeah. So leaving them is hard. But I had this one client that had a bad past, right? He did things when he was in his teens and early 20s. And he flew out of the country to go to his mother's funeral in Trinidad, and had to come back. And coming back, he got flagged from immigration. And so what happens is he got immediately detained and got placed into removal proceedings. And we were able to get him bonded out, and we were able to apply for a special relief that it's no longer available anymore. But it was a 212C waiver, and we were able to give him his residency back. And now I believe he's a lawful permanent resident. Or a citizen.
Just one great story. Thank you, Michelle. It's been an honor. I'm so proud of you, and you're doing so good to all your clients in the community. This is Matthew Noyes. Thank you for being with us for this past hour. Come join us again next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. In the meantime, drive safely and watch out for those who don't. Take care.
Thank you.